Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Change Starts With Us. Today, I figured I would share a little bit about my testimony. Some of you have heard it, and some of you have not. My name is James Cronenberger. I was born April 29th, 1963, and I was adopted by the greatest parents in the world. They were out of Palmer Heights. My father was a local politician. Um, I have two sisters, one deceased brother. My father recently just passed away, um, about a week or so before Christmas. But I wanted to share my past with everybody, how I came to this point in my life, why I care about those who are behind bars, um, and just take it from there. When I was 7 years old, I was a victim of sexual abuse, not by a family member, but, and I won't get into who or any of that because I finally forgave the guy after 20 some years. I was actually incarcerated going through Kairos when we had to write on a piece of paper who needs to forgive us and who do we need to forgive. And I kept putting his name on that paper and then putting it in water and it would dissolve. Well, then I would take it back and keep taking it back. So after Kairos ended, I would write on toilet paper and flush it down the toilet, and I would do that over and over, probably close to a year, until really I said, Lord, I can't do this on my own. I need help. I need to learn how to forgive. And finally, one day, I just gave it to God and I actually forgave, and I no longer had hatred but compassion and really concern for that person's life. But about the age of 13, I started to act out sexually. Now, his was physical, mine wasn't. I would start exposing myself to people, and usually underage people as well. And I mean, well, I was 13 at the time. But that kept happening all the way through, my late teens until I finally got arrested and ended up going to prison for public indecency. Well, I was charged with public indecency, a first degree misdemeanor. The judge in Brea ordered me to counseling, but the Cuyahoga County had other plans. They indicted me for attempted kidnapping, which was never on my mind, never did happen in my opinion. I never laid a hand on a victim or anything of that nature. But I did end up going to prison and spent more than half of my life behind bars for choices that I made. So I really have no hatred or anger towards anyone. Sometimes I get angry with people's accusations right away. Former board members that goes around and wants to say stuff. A guy in Cleveland who claims to be an advocate. The news media out of Cincinnati. They made it sound like a lot more happened than what really did. And I'm not rationalizing it because I was guilty of exposing myself and mentally hurting people that way. Um, and that's still hard for me to swallow because that's not me. That's not how I was raised. I was raised in a Christian home where we prayed before each meal. We sang a Christian song after each meal, and I could not sing, by the way. We read a Bible verse. We went to Wednesday night church activities. I was part of the brigade program when I was a kid, where we would make little things. I remember making a lamp one time, and I was so proud of that lamp because I sure was not talented at making stuff. So I brought that home. I think I used that all the way through my uh, childhood, before I started really getting into trouble. You know, we went to church on Sunday, and we had such a special youth pastor at the time, Pastor Terry and his wife Janie, um, who I clung to pretty much because I liked them both. I'd go over their houses once in a while with my friend Scott. I remember they had a tractor and we were I was trying to cut grass, but I kept going around in circles. So Scott had to take over on it. So my childhood was really not wasted when it came to spiritual gifts and spirituality, because I was raised in that type of home where you don't do the stuff that I did. You don't smoke. You don't drink. I did both. I don't drink anymore. I haven't really ever really drank. But smoking, I quit July 4th of last year. More or less by a bet. Somebody bet me that I wouldn't smoke, and of course he did not pay me, but I stayed off of smoke. Off of cigarettes. My roommate took me to Planks here in Columbus to celebrate. He quit like 4 years before I did. Um, but I remember when I was out there reoffending, every night I would go home feeling so bad, praying to God to please stop me. You know, and you know, and but you had to be willing to, and I thought I was, but when the urge came by, it just continued to happen. Now I know as a fact that God can deliver you of anything, and I no longer have those desires. So we have to, put all our trust into Christ. I remember when I first got locked up, a pastor from Permanent Baptist was not my pastor, but he told me to memorize Romans 8:28. I never could figure out why, but it states that we know that all things work to good to those who love God. And yes, I love God, but I like the flesh as well. And you can't like both. That does not mean you can't have fun in life, but you also have to go by biblical rules. So I went in prison at a very early age, got out when I was in my 40s, have been out 10 years now, working towards helping others. When I was released on January 24th, many years ago, a guy by the name of Gerald Loomer, who was like a brother to me, I knew he was innocent. He was in a wheelchair already. He was battling cancer. He had a leg amputated due to an infection that the state did not properly take care of. But I was out for maybe, I don't know, a year and a half or so, and I was the president of Ohio Cure. We held a fundraiser for Gerald to raise money to hire an attorney to help him at the probe to at least get out, and then he could fight his case. We raised $500 from a Coney dog sale that we had at Steve Fletcher's mission. And so we were really excited because now we had something to work with. Well, we had an awesome attorney by the name of Joel Spitzer who said, I will help him out. He inboxed me first and said, wanted to know a little bit about Gerald, and I shared a little bit about him. And so we raised the money. We were just about to give it to him when I got a call from Darlene, Gerald's sister, saying that he passed away. The doctor at OSU told Corrections Medical Center not to take a feeding tube out. But they did, and he died shortly after that. Well, we offered the money to Joel Spitzer. He said, no, give that to the family. And the family did use that towards his burial. I went to the funeral. My outside brother from Marion, Phil Conway, took me to that funeral. It was really hard for me to go because I'm not a person that really likes funerals by any means. And I don't think I ever will. And when I went to my father's in December, I couldn't even look at the casket. It's just something that, I just don't like. But at Joe's funeral, I talked to a lot of the family members, and they were so grateful, and I was so grateful for them, for the way they fought for their brother, grandfather, father. And I knew he was in a better place, but he should have never been locked up. He was convicted 5 years after the murder took place. There's other people that was talking about, the murder when I was at Grafton, and they just knew too much, you know, more than anybody did. And Gerald said he never told anybody really about about his case except his family. Then after Gerald passed away, a sweet, beautiful lady by the name of Amy Wicks asked me to run her group, be the first president in the name of justice. And I loved that group. I knew they had a mission that would soon be heard by so many people. Amy was an author. Um, she was a good friend. She was very compassionate and loving. And she passed away a few years ago. We're not sure if it was murder or suicide. Either way, I know she's up there with Christ. And that's the most important aspect of any of this. But then that's how Fair Treatment Reform and Reentry came into existence. I went to a TJ's with a few people, and we sat down and said we needed to start a group. And it all originated by a councilman telling me that we needed to form a group that would focus on the parole board. And so we sat up there and we went through particulars, and of course I picked all my friends to sit on the board. Biggest mistake than ever. So we were on the way. And the way the name came about is I was doing an interview with Fox 8 in Columbus on the parole board. And Fox 8 came down from Cleveland. And they said, "What's the name of your group?" And I stopped for a minute and I said, "Fair Treatment Reform." The reentry part wasn't put on until a little bit later, which we never got so much into reentry, knowing that is a passion of mine, that's so much fun and rewarding. But if we don't get these people out, there's no sense to have any type of reentry. And that group, we had, I think, 4 conferences during the 4 years of existence. And I consider our group Fair Treatment Reform because I branched off when the news media was so nasty out of Cincinnati. I branched off and we formed Change Starts With Us, where we have an outstanding board of compassionate people. My friend Terry is very compassionate. She's running the new group, Epic, along with some of my other friends, Gina, Bobby, and I'm not sure who else is on there. Then our group is led by our president, Candace Rucker Rose, and I call her the good Candace. Jerry Vaughn as our secretary. Our recording secretary is Karen Timmis, who was with CURE for 20-some years and was my my secretary as well. And then she came with me to FTR as our first secretary. She's a person that really understands the prison system. She's been active in it for so many years. And it's just really exciting to know that there is people that really do care. But getting back to the change of my life and how it took place, many years ago, I went through the Horizon Initiative up at Marion Correctional. Jeff Hunsinger at that time was our coordinator at the institution. Then he ended up being the coordinator with, I think it was 3 different institutions until they took it out of Marion. And I remember I only really signed up for that program because you got extra benefits, food, and so forth. But every morning, Jeff would call me into his office and says, "I hear you're smoking in the bathroom." I said, "Not me, Jeff, they're lying on me." The next morning again, he called me into the office and he said, "I hear you're smoking in the bathroom, Jim." I said, "Nope, not me." And it went on for so long until finally I was busted by him. But he gave me a chance. And I really was not interested in any of the programs they had. They had one for this was the interfaith where they had all the faiths that was recognized by the government. And they had Wiccans, they had Islamic, they had Christians, Buddhists, and, and I don't remember what other ones that was in there. But the Christians would meet every Tuesday. I think it was every Tuesday for like a Bible study. Jeff would have his guitar, and we would sing some songs. And once in a while, Chaplain Smith would come in and lead us in Bible study for that day. You know, but then Tuesday nights we had what was called Outside Brother. And that's how I got paired up with my friend Phil Conway. Phil was the opposite of everything that I was. He was a Democrat. I was a Republican. He was a Methodist. I was a Baptist. He was liberal. I was conservative. And goes on and goes on and goes on. Well, the first bet we had was, I said, John McCain's going to be President Obama. Well, at the time, I don't think it was President Obama. I think it was Senator Obama. And of course, I was so convinced that John McCain would win. Well, the election came. John did not win, so he was up on me on one. With one. Then, you know, when I was out, you know, I picked. I forget who was running against him. He's a senator now, but I picked him, and of course, Phil picked President Obama. I would have voted for him the third term if he ran, because I started watching some of the stuff that he did. But I did not catch it until like 2-3 months later. On the side of my house, there was a big Obama sign. And of course, I kept blaming Phil on it, just more or less joking around. And he said he would have taken credit for that if he knew the sign was up there. But we have became good friends. He would take me out to Planks once in a while here in Columbus. And, you know, and we just have a good fun time talking. We did a couple videos with Phil. And, you know, he's a good friend. He's in his mid-70s now. My parents had an opportunity to meet him for Horizon graduation, which was out in the chapel yard at Marion. Phil and his wife came up, Marilyn, and my parents came up. And that was, I don't know, 2005, I think. You know, so, and I kept going back to my bunk when I was in Horizon, kept thinking about everything I learned that day. Everything that I needed to change in my life. Behavior, anger, you know, addictions. And every night I would just go back to my bunk and think. My mind was like exploding because there's so much stuff that was taken into my mind. And I remember I went up to Jeff one day. I said, Jeff, do you believe that people can overcome addiction? He said, with prayer, everything's possible. You know, and that was the best program that Christine Money and Jeff Hunsinger brought into Marion. Christine Money was a warden at ORW for many years and came to Marion for many years. And Christine Money was very instrumental into bringing that program there. And I remember one night, because I received Christ when I was 13 years old at Palm Heights Baptist Church. It was a Sunday night. Reverend Bueller was the pastor. I'll never forget. And I was, I think, 12 or 13. I can't remember exactly. But I accepted Christ that night. But there was something different that was happening in my life when I was at Marion, where I knew something was missing. And something that I really did not know how to handle it or what to do or how to really have faith. But I knelt by the side of my bunk one night, and I didn't care who was watching me. And I rededicated my life to Christ. I said, I cannot do this on my own anymore. I no longer can do it. You know, and I remember the tears coming down, and I was sweating so bad it was like the middle of summertime. It was like 100 and some degrees inside of Marion. It's a big red brick building, one of the oldest prisons around. But that was really the change in my life because I had so much anger and hatred. I didn't like people because of race, because of other religion, because they didn't look like me, because they weren't Republican. You know, I just, didn't like anybody. But all of that changed. Now I have so many friends that are black. I have so many friends that are Native American, like my friend Red Horse up at Marion. Um, so it's not about race. It's not about religion. It's about a personal relationship with Christ and how that will help you change. When the news media came and attacked me last summer, he says, "Pew, do not change," and I kept looking at him. So, and then he said, "Does the ODRC know what you're elected up for?" I was just about to tell him how stupid he was because I was released from there. And this whole interview did not make him look very smart because he was doing a personal attack to try to destroy a bill that we were trying to get passed that was so vital for so many people and to give them a fair chance for release. I'm really excited with the future with this new group and then also with Epic. They're going to be working on the Parole Board. And I'll never forget supporting that because that's my biggest passion. It always has been because I was bound by the Parole Board. And those people are just not very kind. We have one guy sitting on the board that makes discrimination comments. We have some of them that eating during that or getting up walking around. Then we have we've been asking for for them to film it, just for the inmate's sake and the parole board, but not public. Because if you don't have a video camera filming it, you're not be able to see exactly what these people are doing. We're not asking for a court reporter to do that, type in, and stuff, because that right there is not going to show nothing. That's not going to show the people getting up and, walking around. So I wish that state rep would really think that over and talk to some of us. I've talked to so many inmates over that. They are dismayed that he would want something like that in there that's not going to help them. But needless to say, this story is about how God can change you and I. No matter who we used to be, He could change us to what we are today. But it's going to start with you. You admitting you have a problem. You admitting you're helpless and you need help. And you believing in a God. And a God of all living. If you'd like to join forces with Change Starts With Us, please email us at changebeginswithus4sure@gmail.com. Again, that is changebeginswithus4sure@gmail.com. Our phone number is 614-404-4924. We have a Twitter account, Cronenberger J1. We have a Instagram, also that is James_Cronenberger. We have a LinkedIn account under James Cronenberger or Change Starts With Us. And we have also a Facebook page, Change Starts With Us, and a group page, because I screwed up on the name. It's Change Begins With Us. It's a group page. We do videos on there at times, but recently somebody keeps reporting my page fake. And anybody that knows me knows I do not post anything negative on Facebook. So I don't know what really happened there, and I really don't care because most people that know me knows that that's not stuff that happens. I do have an attitude at times that I'm working on because I get really frustrated, sometimes when I need to back away and have somebody else handle some of the crises or the issues. Right now we're working on a serious situation of abuse up at Lucasville. We're working on a PREA violation from a couple years ago from Lake Erie Correctional that Lake Erie says the camera was down. How can the video camera be down in segregation? That's a habit of the institution saying the camera is down. We know better because they're not going to let a camera down because that also can protect the correction officers. So that's the only time they'll use it is when they need to. Then they'll say it's not working when other people need it. So there's so much that we need to work on, everyone. And we appreciate you. We appreciate your kindness, your compassion, and your love for others. And for not judging others. Remember, we don't know what happened in their life. We don't know if they're innocent, guilty, or what the circumstances was. I'm not saying crime is okay. It's not, by no means. But the only way we can change is by admittance that we have a problem and turning to help. When the media attacks a person personally and their character, and I'm not talking about me, but that can push a person into reoffending because they're pushing them against a wall where they cannot think straight. And the media needs to really change how they do things. That's one thing I agree with Donald Trump on is the fake news, because they really don't care about the truth. They care about what sells and how it brings people in. You know, and ABC6 and Columbus is no better. They were following us around, supporting us. Then this news guy from Cincinnati, got them to work with them. They didn't want to hear the truth. They only wanted to hear a bunch of lies. And it's sad, that they would jump ship because of a person's past that was over 10 years ago. Let's make this video go viral, folks. And let's share this. And everyone have yourself a great, great day and week ahead.